Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how we can run queries using the SQL function, specifically working with Oracle SQL, but the same approach with functions works in every SQL flavor you're working on. Specifically, we want to talk about when we're working with functions, your function is going to go either in the select and or the where clauses. If we're putting them inside the select clause, it's because I want to extract that data following that function so I can grab that information. However, if I put it inside the where clause, I'm putting a function inside the where clause because I want to match data based on some condition of some data within that. So just as an FYI, they can go in either of those two clauses. We use it either to extract the data or to search the data, or limit the data, excuse me. So that's what we're going to be going for that. Today we're going to be taking a look at a couple of the methods inside Oracle SQL for the PAD methods. So we have LPAD and RPAD. RPAD and LPAD methods or functions are used so that we can actually pad strings, and they were explicitly mostly used when we're talking about doing reports for a console-based system or putting reports out to a printer where it's going out in a paper format. I know it does happen. Because especially nowadays, when you're doing a query, you run that information, you extract it out as a data set. You'll put it either maybe into a spreadsheet formula, copy and paste it into Excel or something like that, if you're actually using it from a console, like using the SQL developer. Or most often, when you're running a query, you're getting that into a result set that's going to be sent to another program, like say, for example, Java, C#, C++, and it'll apply information inside the program for that, where you don't have to worry about the padding inside the data. You'll be extracting it and working with it inside the language tools for that as well. But when we're talking about LPAD and RPAD, so we can format the text that's inside that, and we have the parens that go along with it. There's three parameters we work with when we're talking about the different PAD methods. The first parameter is the source parameter. This is the source type. It's usually going to be a field, but it can be just a straight value you work with if you're only using the dual table. The second parameter is the padding to width. And notice there's an asterisk right there. This does have to be a number, and we'll talk about that more in just a minute. And our third parameter is the content, the padding we're putting in there, and that should be text that we're working with. So let's take a look at our source parameter first. That first parameter in both LPAD and RPAD is usually going to be a string, but it can be any data type that we can extract and display with a database. So that can be anything we're working with, but string's the most common one. And most often the case, this is usually a field or a combination of fields that you're using as part of your select query you get inside your database, because that's where LPAD and RPAD are most often used, is inside the select query itself, or the select clause, of your query explicitly. But it does work in any other types, and of course we've got a cute little smile. Our second parameter is the padding to width one. And again, I have that asterisk right here because when we're talking about the padding on that the value right there is very much dependent on what we have as our source. If that value is bigger than the source, of course, that stretches the column's width to that point. So it'll pad to that width. However, if that number, that padding to width, is smaller than our data set, the column we're working with, then it just trims to that point. Yeah. So if we want to trim a value to some smaller amount, that's where that goes. This one does have to be a number. Unlike this one where it can be any other type, this one must be a number type. And so that's what we're working for that. And of course, it has to be an integer type number because, again, you can't really do partial text. It doesn't work. So that's for that one. And our final one is our padding content. This is going to be a text value as well. And the way this works is when you're talking about the actual padding you're going to put in that, it's going to repeat the contents of that padding content repeatedly until it can get to the end. So if you have, say, for example, padding content that has 3 values, but you only have 2 spaces left, it just does those 2. Or it'll do 3, 3, 3, 2. Or 3, 3, 3, 1. Or whatever it happens to be to fit that in so it can repeat that content as necessary to make that width from there. And so again, when we're talking about select queries, again, when we're talking about the padding functions inside Oracle SQL, we have the LPAD and RPAD. The LPAD would be used to right justify a value, especially if we're using spaces as the parameter. And the RPAD would be to left justify that value because, again, it'll pad it to that side because the LPAD will push it from the left in, padding on the left. The RPAD will pad from the right and push it to the left. So that's what we can do with that. And that's what the LPAD functions do when we're working with Oracle SQL. So we can do some text functions on that. See some of the other videos for examples on how you can do that and more. Thanks. Have a good day. Cheers. Bye-bye.